The latest row erupted in mid-June when India opposed China's attempt to extend a border road through a plateau known as Doklam in India and Donglang in China. The plateau, which lies at a junction between China, the northeastern Indian state of Sikkim and the Himalayan kingdom of Bhutan, is currently disputed between Beijing and Bhutan. India supports Bhutan's claim over it. India is concerned that if the road is completed, it will give China greater access to India's strategically vulnerable Chicken's Neck, a 20 kilometers, 12-mile, wide corridor that links the 7 northeastern states to the Indian mainland. And since the standoff began, each side has reinforced its troops and called on the other to back down. There is a dreadful sense of déjà vu about the way the standoff appears to be escalating. This is not the first time the two neighbors who share a rocky relationship have faced off on the ill-defined border, where minor incursions by troops have been common. The region saw armed clashes between China and India in 1967, and a prolonged standoff and build-up of troops along the border in Arunachal Pradesh in 1986–87. Delhi believes that Beijing is testing India's commitment to Bhutan in the latest standoff, writes analyst Ajay Shukla. China has always been galled by this close relationship, which has withstood sustained Chinese pressure to divide it, he says. This time China has upped the ante against India. Foreign Ministry spokesman Lu Kang told reporters in Beijing on Tuesday that Indian forces should leave the area to avoid an escalation of the situation. Not a bluff. Indian analysts believe China's warnings cannot be ignored. In general, the Chinese pattern of use of force has been to prepare the ground with adequate statements and warnings. In 1962, the state-run news agency Xinhua warned well in advance that India should pull back from the brink of war. During the Korean War in 1950, which pitted the US and its allies against the USSR, North Korea, and Communist China, the Chinese warned the US through India that if they crossed the Yalu River, the Chinese would be forced to enter the war. To be true, this doesn't mean that China is girding up for war. As things stand, both sides can share some blame for the standoff in what is a strategically important area. In 2012, India and China agreed that the tri-junction boundaries with Bhutan and Myanmar, also called Burma, would be finally decided in consultation with these countries. Until then, the status quo would prevail. India believes China violated the status quo by building the road. Indian troops were sent to resist their Chinese counterparts in the area only after Bhutan, which has close ties with India, requested India to help. China insists Indian troops invaded Doklam/Donglang to help Bhutan, and it was a violation of international law. Mr. Lu says India should not take trespass as a policy tool to reach or realize their political targets. Some analysts say India possibly made a mistake by openly conflating the building of the road with talk of potential serious security implications for India. I agree that there were security concerns, but it was wrong for India to voice them strongly. We could have just said that China had breached the status quo. By overplaying the security angle, we may have scored an own goal, and the Chinese are exploiting it. Chinese think tank says a third country's army could enter the disputed region of Kashmir at Pakistan's request, using the same logic the Indian army has used to stop the Chinese troops from building the road in Doklam/Donglang. Even if India were requested to defend Bhutan's territory, this could only be limited to its established territory, not the disputed area. Clearly, for the standoff to end, all three sides need an agreeable solution without losing face. As China hardens its position, many believe that finding a three-way, face-saving solution would be tricky and time-consuming. Relations between